everyone, it's Allie. I'm a high school chemistry teacher in the middle of Indiana, and I just wanted to talk to you today about excuse me, tips for parent-teacher conferences. So I just had parent-teacher conferences last week, so it's currently Friday of my fall break. So yeah, last week we had them for 2 days, and this year we did them via Zoom, but I've also done parent-teacher conferences where parents sign up and come to your room specifically for their time slot. And then my previous school, I used to work in a rural school, all of us teachers set up in the gym, and our school required parents to come pick up their students' report cards, and then we all just happened to be in the gym, so if they wanted to come talk to us about grades, they could. And we had a sign-up sheet, or a sign-in sheet really, at our tables, and then we would turn those in at the end of the day so they could see, how many people were coming to talk to you. I do want to preface this by saying I am a high school teacher, and generally, and I don't even teach a subject that everyone's required to take. They're required to take a physical science, which could be integrated chemistry and physics, chemistry or physics. So I see only a fraction of the students, and chemistry students tend to be average to above average. At the school I currently teach at, there's pre-AP chemistry as well, which is considered honors chemistry. So those would be the more advanced students. I don't see any of those students, but I do have probably what you would consider average to a little bit above average students, and their grades tend to be great. I currently only have I think like 2 students out of 6 classes failing, and those are the parents I really wanted to speak to. So probably my first tip is to reach out to your failing students' parents or guardians first and make them your priority, and let them know that you're doing that you want to speak with them, because they're more likely to sign up. But traditionally, at least in my experience, this is my 9th year of teaching, those are not the parents or guardians who tend to actually sign up for parent-teacher conferences. The people who tend to sign up and fill up your docket are parents of students who, have good grades. And, it's not all about grades, and I actually hate grades. I wish we could go gradeless and just do feedback. But in our current educational climate in the United States, we can't do that. So yeah, most of the parents that I speak to, it's almost like they just want an ego boost, and I'm happy to do that, but I do that already. I already once a week email 2 or 3 parents or guardians of students that I have, talking to them not about academics, but about something great that their kid did this week that I really appreciated, either being really helpful for me or another student. And so yeah, it tends to be, for me in my experience, that I'm just giving those parents an ego boost. So back to tips. So one was contact F, or anything that you consider bad or your school considers bad. My school wanted us to contact D's and F's first, so that's what I did. I only had 1 parent sign up for that, and then they didn't show up. So yeah. My second tip for when you're in the actual meeting with your parents and guardians, your students, the person who's in charge of them, is that you are a team. So when you come to that meeting, it is a team meeting. It is not that parent against you, and I guarantee that if the parent is coming there with that mentality, you having a different mentality, that you are a team, will go much farther in that meeting than you coming accusatory. So for example, if you have a student that has some behavioral issues, your parent-teacher conference might reveal why. I've had students before that were very rude. This was when I worked in a rural school, and it's not indicative of all the students, male students specifically, that are in a rural school, but I had some students that were, very dismissive of me because I was a female. And it was very evident why, because when I met their father at parent-teacher conferences, that's how their father treated me, as well as, their mother or any other females that were around them. So, but again, if you come to the meeting as, we are a team, what are we going to do about so-and-so, or how are we going to help so-and-so, or what can I do to help so-and-so, what do you need from me, those types of team building statements, you'll have a much better time in the meeting. My second tip, or I guess this is the third tip now, is to, when you're talking about the students, do it in a pro way. So you're sandwiching the bad things with two good things. Because oftentimes parents only hear bad things when they hear from teachers. So being able to hear what their student is doing well, I think will help them hear the bad things without being angry about it. I've had students before that, are really tired and try and sleep in class, and that's not great. But then being able to tell instead of hearing that and then, wanting to backhand their kid for sleeping in class, and say, when they are awake, they engage really well with the content, or the work that they turn in is really quality. I just need them to pay attention in class more, or something like that. Then it kind of lessens the freak out that parents might have a little bit. And as a parent who has sat through a parent-teacher conference for a 3-year-old, I appreciated that, hearing what my son was doing well, what we could work on at home, and then what they're going to continue to work on at school. So pro, and this is actually, we did this when we talked about, so I am a Chi Omega, and when we were talking about bringing in new members, each new member, when we talked about them as individuals, like why we wanted them in our organization or not, we had to do a pro, and it couldn't just be, she's pretty, but she's mean, but she's pretty, like that. That was not enough. It had to be substantive. So for pro, for your students, I would recommend you to do the same. So think about a student I've had before. Oh, okay. So this one student I had would be like, well, he is a great leader outside of the classroom. In the classroom, that's true as well. So when so-and-so decides that he wants to check out for a minute, other students feel like it's okay for him to do that. So we need to work on, him recognizing those leadership skills, even though he might not realize that he's a leader for the class. But other than that, he's doing great with content and is really able to get the kids at his group to discuss concepts in a much deeper way than other student leaders do. So that would be an example of a pro approach of discussing things with parents. And I've just found that it really helps parents to latch on to the good things without dismissing the bad things or dismissing me as a bad teacher, because I'm also showing them that I know their student well, and well enough to give them constructive feedback. Okay, so the fourth thing I have for you is setting clear expectations and boundaries with those parents. Again, you are a team, but that doesn't mean that you are at the student or the parent's beck and call, and especially right now during COVID. So my school is in session, like we are physically in the building, but I do have some at-home learners, and that is something I had to set for those parents. Like, look, I am working full-time from 7 to 4 o'clock every day. And then additionally, I have to teach your kids. I cannot answer emails. Like, maybe I can, but you cannot expect me to answer an email or answer the phone between the hours of 7 and 4. I just can't. Like, I have 150 kids physically in the building that need me to. But also, if you email me at 3 a.m., I'm also not going to respond until I'm awake and can function. So being able to set those boundaries and reminding them that, and you don't have to say it this way, but like, I'm not your child's friend. I am not your friend. I'm their teacher, and I'm going to hold them to the high expectations that I hold myself to. So just being clear and consistent with that. And usually you don't have to set the tone like, hey, I expect blah, blah, blah. But if a parent asks you a question, or, at every parent-teacher conference, parents ask me about tutoring, like, can I tutor their child? Well, there are some tutoring services that my school currently provides that you have to pay for, but some parents can't afford that. But I can't, if I say yes to tutoring that child, then I might have to say yes to many other children, so I don't tutor. I do let the students know if I'm going to be doing, like, I'm at school every day, before school and after school, and I just tell them to stop in when they need help. But I personally can't schedule regular tutoring sessions because it just becomes too much for me. especially now that I'm picking my child up directly from preschool, so I have to leave school at like 3:25. School's out at 2:50, so it just doesn't leave me a lot of time. If I end up scheduling every single day as a tutoring session after school, when am I going to do when am I going to have time to make copies, or like work with my chemistry team, or what? Like, so many things come up at the end of the day, and I find when I schedule too much after school, like I already one day a week have, like every Wednesday we have PLC, so that's out. Every Thursday I help after school. Not every Thursday, I've been really bad about it the past couple weeks, but on Thursdays we have our Black Student Union meetings that I prefer to go to that than do other things. So that only leaves me with 3 days, and so if I start scheduling those days after school, it just gets, for me, like mentally, like I feel overwhelmed. Even if I can handle it mentally, I feel overwhelmed. So I just I just let parents know, they can pop in before school or after school. They just need to let me know ahead of time so I'm there, and they know that I'm not ignoring them, like off making copies. Like, they just need to, give me a heads up. In class that day is fine. Like, hey, can I stop by after school today to talk about XYZ? Yeah, sure. That's great. Unless it's a Wednesday or Thursday and like, I'm sorry, I don't have any time today. Can you stop by? Blah, blah, blah. And that seems to work really well. I do have, I guess, a fifth tip about what happened this year with parent-teacher conferences for you. For Zoom links, I'm sure many more people are familiar with Zoom now than I am, because we just aren't using it. But what we did for parent-teacher conferences this year is we used something called Sign Up Genius, which many of you probably know about. It's just a website for signing up for things, so you can set up time slots. When I had Google for Education, I was able to do it within a Google with Google Calendar, but because I don't have a Google account, specifically like Google Education, I can't do that anymore, because that's what I would have preferred to do, is just like, here's my calendar, here's some time slots, and then it would have just gone straight to my Google Calendar, but I wasn't able to do that this year. So I went ahead and used Sign Up Genius, which was fine. You can set up your time slots however your school wants them set up. We did 15-minute time slots, and we just filled them in, blah, 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 whatever. And then you can require whatever information you need. So I required an email address and then the student's name, because as many of you know who are teachers, sometimes the last names don't match, which is fine. But if a parent or guardian's last name matches another student, you might be preparing the wrong stuff. So knowing who the guardian belongs to is good. And then double check your Zoom links. If you're using Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever it is you're using, double check it. So I used one Zoom link, and I only emailed it to the parents who signed up for parent-teacher conferences, and I had waiting room enabled because I just wanted it to be as easy as possible. A colleague of mine set up an individual Zoom link for each session, which I just didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be I wanted it to be as easy as possible. Well, my second day, because I scheduled the Zoom meeting to be 2 days from 4:30 to 8, because that was our time period. And the second day, I don't know what happened. I enabled it from Zoom, and the first parent was like waiting on me, but I was also waiting on them. Nobody was in the waiting room, so we ended up having to reschedule their meeting, which wasn't, it was fine because I had another time slot that they were able, like, it just worked out, but it worked better, like, when I went back to the email that I had sent and clicked that link and enabled everything, that worked better. So just double check your Zoom links. Maybe if it's over 2 days and you want to just do 2 links, like one for the first day, one for the second day, that's probably what I should have done, but I didn't. But next year, if we do parent-teacher conferences this way, that's how I'll do it. Yeah, and just remember that parent-teacher conferences are just a check-in point. If you are an elementary school teacher and you have 25 kids, you're probably going to meet with all of your parents. If you're a high school teacher, there's no way you're going to meet with all of your parents. So again, prioritize your D&F students if possible. Give those parents a little extra time. Maybe personalize the email you send to each one of them. Like, hey, so-and-so has an F in my class and I'm really concerned. I see potential with blah, 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 and make it specific so they know it's not a blanket email. And I think that you'll get a better response from the DNF guardians than just sending a blanket email. And let them know that you're giving them priority. Hey, I'm giving you priority, because then that lets them know, oh, I'm not going to have to, go through and find a time between all these other parents. I can just sign up. And then make sure, if you're using Sign Up Genius, that you only enable one slot at a time. I had heard from some English teachers, some freshman English teachers, that they somehow had enabled multiple slots, and they had double, triple, quadruple bookings for a slot. And you can't do that. You can't talk to 4 parents at a time about their individual students. So then they had to start contacting parents and see, okay, so, and then they were fully booked for the rest of them. So of these 4 kids, who needs my attention? But also be very open with parents if something like that happens. Just let them know that, you were struggling a little bit with the technology and this mistake happened. And I would not, unless you really want to, because it's going to open up floodgates, offer parent-teacher conferences outside of your time slots. Because if you do it for one parent or guardian, more people are going to expect it. If the student really needs that team, which really needs you to start building that team between their parent, because they really need a lot of support, yes. If that student has an A, doesn't need help, their parent is just looking for a pat on the back, email. Just send a quick email. Now don't cut, I guess I'll go back and say, if somebody signs up for parent-teacher conferences and you don't think you need to meet, don't email them and say, get out of here, unless there's other people who need the time slot. If, like me, I had 22 time slots and only 16 people signed up, I didn't need to kick anybody out. Sorry, my neighbor's dogs just came out. I didn't need to make space for other parents. I had enough space. And yes, I only had 16 parents out of 150 parents, guardians, adults sign up to talk about their student. So I would also generalize as much as you can. So I did not send notes that said anything about parents. It always would say guardians. And when I talk to them, it's students, because it might be a grandparent, and they consider them their child, but they're not, so just be very general with your pronouns. But yeah, that's it. I hope that helps you. Hopefully this doesn't come too late for you. I know parent-teacher conferences tend to be in October, so hopefully this is timely enough and will help you